spend maximum part of our day during the workplace, and it's very common for each one of us to express what we feel. But how far is it right to express what we feel the way we feel it? So we are having a group of working professionals amongst us. We want to just discuss out how good or how bad is it to emote at the workplace. So we have the group of working professionals with us. Let's just open up. Let's just talk how far is it right or how far is it not right to express our opinions during the workplace. All yours.
Emoting at workplace is something which comes naturally. And when we are working with ourselves. In the sense, we are working with the complete aura. And this has got even the negative side of it, positive side of it. It is very difficult to balance it all the time, taking the stress at one side and the emotional part at the other side. That's how I start, looking at it. So I think it's natural. Now I think someone of y'all could take about how, whether it's right or wrong, or how do you look at it?
You know, it's not just about whether you express yourself or you don't express. It's also to what extent you express. Because somewhere I feel that, this is my personal opinion, that at a workplace, there has to be a limit. You can't express all your emotions. Because you see, all of us have our respective families, but when we come to a workplace, I think that focus is required. And sometimes maybe because of our opinions, because of our emotions, that focus might be lacking. So somewhere we have to restrict ourselves as far as emotions go at the workplace.
I agree with you, Vandana, because Deepa, you mean to say that we should detach ourselves and then work?
To some extent.
Because if you detach yourself, you cannot have that belongingness. You cannot attach yourself to your work.
No, as much as I'd like to agree with what you've just said, the point is it's not about cutting yourself from your family or your emotions. But I think what she's trying to say, to which I think even I agree to a great extent, is that you need to draw a very fine line of balance. You just cannot go overboard. There are days when you have a horrible time, maybe on your personal front or maybe any other aspect which is not professionally related. But the point is, when you walk in through the doors of an office, there is just so much baggage that you're allowed to carry with yourself. So if you want to break down or something on one particular day for some reason, that may be okay on one instance or so, but you cannot have a day-to-day affair. If you may agree with me, that you cannot on an everyday basis say, because I come from families or I have other things, and so I have a whole set of emotions. But if the emotions are channeled properly at your workplace, fantastic.
Exactly, I would want to
that's
talk
just
about the same thing. Deepti was just talking about giving it, maybe once it could happen, but how right is it? Like Vandana was talking about, we need to balance it. If that one time happens to be the tipping point, then I think that's it. We're off.
Actually, getting to that same point, it is your personality that defines you finally. You cannot be a dual personality at your work and at your home. If you are trying to be, as you would try to balance your own work space, it's the same thing at your home space. Sure. You can't go about talking nonsense with your in-laws or misbehave with your own kids or your husband. You try balancing that relationship. So each relationship is being dealt in its own way. It's the same way in the work. There is no different attitude or different personality that you carry back at work. So if you can balance yourself as a person, it is both the same. Both your workplace and your home place turns out to be a more balanced work.
When we are talking about home, okay, you might have had an argument with your husband, but then does it affect the way you're managing your family? That day you won't cook food for your children? You will. Okay, so you are continuing doing your work, putting aside your emotions. I'm angry. I won't do any work today. But then I am continuing. So there also I am bringing out a small differentiation between emotions and work.
Actually, that again redefines.
Yeah.
When this year we talk about the husband getting back to you, it's the same way our client getting back to us. He comes back unfairly, kind of gets back to us, or there is some so-called customer satisfaction, big time dissatisfaction, and they get back to you and they talk things that you would not like to listen professionally. But then you still get back to work. So whether you do that or not, where is your line? You draw a line with your own family at the same time at work. You won't accept your husband talking nonsense towards a different line. In the same way, you won't accept your client talking to you on a different line. You know where is your line. So it is both emotions at the end of it. Whether a client is getting back to you on a work or very professional need, or your husband is getting back to you on a very personal need, it's the same thing. It's a need, and you are the one to satisfy
But
it.
I just would like to differ at one place, Lalita. This point of husband or a spouse getting back or not getting back, there's a small difference, because a client has an option to go to somebody else. So I understand because this is like we're just in it.
That's true. I accept what Radhika says. I cannot go back and ask my client to come back. I was emotionally down the other day, so my feelings were a little unbalanced, so I had to evoke it out. But if it is to my husband, because there is a lifelong relation there, he understands. You're not tying any knot with your company. So you should know how to behave, and professionalism is what it all is all about. You will have to be professional when you're working at a place. I understand there would be emotions. Your emotions have to be bursted out in a different corner and not in front of the board.
Now, I think here at this point, just taking what you've said forward, Sirisha, professionalism from where I see it, like most of the things that we talk is extremely relative. So what is okay for you may be a little overboard for somebody else, and vice versa, right? So, and I think you were talking about a dual personality, which is so true. You cannot be two persons, and I don't think that when you expect somebody to maintain a certain decorum or a certain code of conduct at a place of work, I don't think the immediate connotation is become a dual person. It's just that conduct yourself based on where you are. That's just about the idea. But nobody is again trying to say that, if you have a good day, don't go ahead and give your colleague a high five. Come on, go ahead and do that. You're people, you're not working with robots at the end of the day, and you want to see those emotions. Otherwise, there wouldn't really be much difference between working in an assembly line unit where there are only, machines or tools or equipments, or working with human beings. So, but I think also there are other dimensions to workplace emotions than just maybe a good day or a bad day. There are aspects, like I was reading an article which was talking about how it is seen on a gender bias basis. So there was something which was highlighting Hillary Clinton, and it said that she getting angry at an opponent, Senate, or any other person in the political arena was viewed really bad. And she holds a good position in the political arena in the US, and we all know that. Now that triggered a simple debate that is it okay if a lady is it really acceptable if a lady goes ahead and raises her temper to get things done? Vis-a-vis, when you see a man doing it, you say, now that is acceptable. When a lady does it, now that's simple emotion at workplace. That is her work arena. She emoted. And now that was taken as she not being lady enough. Now had she not spoken up, it would be another debate altogether, saying she's too timid and she's too girly.
Deepti, I think
She's
at
really
this
not doing
point,
justice to the kind of work that she's allocated to.
Absolutely,
She's not justifying what she's got to do. So
I think
taking this
emotions
point
are-
forward, I would like to hear it from the gentleman over here. What
Right.
do you feel about it? How common is it to have the expressions of women folk coming out? How do you take it up in the workplace?
Well, to probably cut down this entire gender thing about emotions, I think emotion is very natural, and it is very human for all of us to be very emotional, be it your professional place or be it in your personal life. At the end, as one of my colleagues said, that we're all working professionals, we don't work with machines. There's hardly any difference between the comp that you work with or the human beings that you are. You definitely have to emote at one point or another. For instance, if I am a joyous person, if I'm a cheerful person at home, I cannot withdraw into a shell when I come to my workplace saying that, okay, I'm not probably supposed to give a high five here, or I'm not probably supposed to, say that why don't we walk out for a coffee because I'm too down with work, or probably I've had too much of load for today. So it's quite okay for us to have this balanced emotion at a workplace, as long as it is not, overboard aggression or your controlled, joyful happiness moods around.
Yeah,
We all, as a
exactly.
professionals, as one of us said, let's draw a thin line between, making it too uncontrolled and, making it as a loved sense of emotions in our workplace.
Vishwanathan was was saying, we should have a cutoff or a thin line drawn, where we can say that this is right and that's right, or this is wrong and we shouldn't do it. See, why I'm saying this is it doesn't affect the individual, it also affects the entire workplace where we are working. Maybe a subordinate or a superior person, the entire feeling that what we express also goes into those people, and the work style of those people also get affected due to this.
In fact, I would really agree with you, because when we have negative emotions, it is really counterproductive to whatever we do. And at the end of the day, we are all into work, and we are looking at results or the business. And if that gets affected because of the simple emotion of one person, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, because some of the experts talk about displacement. See, if I have taken somebody's anger, I tend to take it further, and it just so happens, and then if it's worst, the worst place is the workplace.
No, that is where your how you manage emotions comes. Like when if you are being if somebody has shown anger to you, if you are able to manage your emotions well, don't
If I could,
percolate it down further.
if I could go to the subconscious and really do all those things, I would really be in the Zen state. But that's, yeah, I agree. What I'm trying to only say is, this is what happens, and right, like you rightly said, perhaps this is a place where some of us was talking about balancing the whole thing, and that's how it works.
Radhika, just to, Sirisha, if I may make this point, I just feel that, when you say something like, I have a negative emotion and because I am negative, I'm just spreading it out to everybody else, suddenly I start feeling that I'm isolated. So I am just expected to be happy and have a great day all the time, or be in that peppy state for all the, the working hours that I'm in, right? But that's not the way it can ideally be. So I'm just saying that if you have a bad day, I'm sure your colleagues or the friends that you've made, or even your boss for that matter, I mean, why have that ceiling in the first place? You've had a bad day.
Talk it out.
Talk it out. You should have that kind of comfort
rather
zone.
mask
Yes,
yourself.
absolutely. And I don't think it's really, really wrong if you want to even vent it out with your friends. I mean, the topic that we're looking it up, is like, why bottle it all up? Even if you do that, there is going to be one day or one stage or one point, and that might even happen on any given working day, that you're just going to let it all go out. Absolutely. And maybe that was not really needed in the first place. Have you had that proper stage by stage vent? Which could be anything. Like, there are companies in Japan which actually allow you to have rooms, which have punching bags, which have punching pillows. So you really don't want to shout it out at anybody, but you want to vent it out, go ahead, do it. We give you a thumbs up. We don't say that, oh, you're angry, now we're going to be judgmental about you. Those kind of things don't necessarily have to happen. And I think if you really do that, that's when you feel like, because this is how I'm at home, and that's exactly how I can be at work. But at the same time, I can be a professional who can balance the act of being a good homemaker or a husband, and then at the same time I can come here and work, and I don't have to be judged just because I've had one bad moment or a bad day, or for that matter, why even have a bias? I'm not getting into the gender aspect, but if I may just leave it at this point, that sometimes it's just automatically stereotyped that if a woman breaks down, that's okay because she's a lady, she had a bad day, so she will cry. But that kind of a leverage is not given to a man.
How do fellow women take it?
Exactly.
I totally agree, yes, but I'm also trying to say that why not look at the men? Maybe they want to break down on certain points also, but the stereotype tells us, oh, a man cried, he's not man enough. Why have those stereotypes? It can be that a lady is strong enough not to cry at any instance, and it can be that there is a day where a man really wants to break down. Give them that breathing space without being judgmental is all I'm trying to say.
Here I would want to bring in that many a times I think this tendency to break down by women, I think at times it is misused.
Absolutely.
It is kind of a scapegoat.
Can be. I don't deny that. I don't deny that at all.
Coming down to one of my own experiences, again pointing out to the point. Now what happens is in the initial stages of my career, when I would go down to give in certain rules or some kind of a work, when delegating the work, it was always taken as a woman delegating the work, and a lot of stereotype men who wouldn't take it. They would go to an extent that they would go to my boss directly and take the work back from him and then say that they have completed it, giving them the emotional satisfaction. This was the worst stress that I went through, and I would break down much faster at those stages because it was their ego problem of accepting me as a woman in the thing.
Ego, insecurity,
everything.
everything.
I mean, you can name anything on
Yeah.
that. So the best solution I found, and which fortunately my boss helped me out in finding it out, is that so when they come up with something like that, and a man is having an issue with you as a woman, as a boss, it is not your issue, it is his issue. So you enjoy the problem, that's when it has completely changed my perspective about handling it, because I didn't get emotional about it. Instead, it gave me more pleasure in handling that person because I was the one who's supposed to be delegating the work, not him. And he's got no much choice. So it is emotional. I could balance myself, accepting for me myself that I am the boss and I'm supposed to be handling the situation, and I cannot let somebody else's insecurity run over me. So that changed me a lot. So since then, when they realized they had no other way to go out of it, it became a lot more easier because men or all the other colleagues started opening up with their problems and understand.
I agree
They
with
come
you,
with that
Lalita.
kind
I
of a
totally
social
agree with
background.
absolutely, because we cannot carpet the whole earth. We need to wear slippers, that's it. What is it
Exactly.
that we can do to control the whole thing is what is the solution perhaps in this?
Radhika
Like
says
one of you all was
self-emotional
talking,
balance,
absolutely.
you know?
It's balance could be in terms of maybe taking up our emotions in a more streamlined way so that things will not affect the work. Or sometimes I understand that Indian scenario has a different ball game altogether. So in this context, I feel that yes, gender plays a very important role. Like Lalita was talking about how she has been affected. I think it happens everywhere.
I probably don't agree with it, considering that maybe the stereotype channel of workplace existed elsewhere or earlier, but now the entire world is opened up, and I don't probably see this
Not really.
entire
I would agree with you on that.
gender-based when you're coming to your corporate kind of a work
See
culture.
how much percentage of urban culture has opened
I would probably say majority of them.
I'll kind of give you a small example for that, because I deal with the technology, creative technology field, and the kind of people I deal with, these are the real artists that come from a real small villages, and there a woman is either a wife or a mother or a daughter.
She's always a
And
second
not
in
I
work.
would negate
She's
this
always
aspect
a
of
second
being
in.
existing, but otherwise, not to be debating on that aspect of it. But I think that somewhere or the other, we're all probably rounding it up as a negative emotion that we're talking. Venting out our emotions only in terms of when we've got a bad day, when we
Yes,
probably
rightly,
had a
absolutely,
quarrel. What in
absolutely.
case
Agree.
of an environment where we create that the entire team is won an award and the entire mood is quite cheerful? That is again, emotions is again a vicious cycle. Okay,
See,
you
now the
you have a
companies-
negative emotion, it will percolate down to your entire
Absolutely,
group.
there
You
are
have
two
a
sides of the coin.
joyous
There are
mood, it
always
will
two sides.
definitely
That's what I'm
add to
saying.
your productivity for that day as
To
well.
get your company to that level of
Exactly.
positive emotions, it's first thing is you put your foot down and say, I am not going to go down for this kind of
See,
thing.
that's why
Absolutely.
now
Yeah, you take a stand. You take a stand, of course. For instance, now it's all become a myth that women are quite vulnerable. I would probably do not understand or agree to this fact. Considering absolutely not. So it all
I
depends for us to
understand a lot of
where to
men are also
draw a
equally
line
vulnerable.
on draw a line where we don't probably encourage all this cheesy kind of politics out there in the corporate world. So it's
See,
for
I'll
you
just
guys to
add
draw
a
it.
point now.
Yeah.
Now the companies are understanding that because most of us spend our important point of times in the offices. So we have the celebrations
chunk.
happening because we exhibit the happy emotions there. At the same time, we also have an aquarium coming up in most of the office premises. You have low-level emotions to be boiled down. You go sit in front of an aquarium. That's a big stress buster. Apart from the chit-chat rooms and the open hierarchy policies which are still open, the HR says that all the management in the senior level is open. The doors are open. The open door management which says that you feel that there's something wrong with your
Walk in.
friend or
Right.
co-colleague. You go and burst out your feelings in front of your boss, who is there to judge and understand that
How many
yes,
of us
I
welcome?
know,
How many of our bosses welcome that? I'm
I
not
still
completely
agree
sure.
on that
But
one.
as long as you can relate one of your fishes to your bosses, I think you will definitely
Lot of
boil down a lot of your
It's
emotions.
about, I think, somebody has rightly put it, more than what you say, it's about how you say it.
Right.
And the body language
is very important.
makes a lot of difference because a lot of people say what they want to say, but
Right.
when they have subconsciously something else, perhaps.
So, Radhika, I think here I'll just take it a little forward and just say that there's a lot of onus on each of us also.
Yes.
It's we just
Not
cannot come up with
individual
it.
emotions, absolutely.
It's not, and when I say onus, I don't mean about just controlling your emotion. I'm talking in every single aspect. Of course, we want an idealistic job environment. We want a fantastic boss who's just in sync with our ideas. But I think we're all realistic enough. We know that okay,
That's
not
quite
the
utopian.
point,
That's quite utopian.
Absolutely. So I'm talking this from personal experience. When I probably am somebody who's very expressive, very vocal. Me not talking on one day is not me. So, but when I joined this particular company, I was expected to maintain a certain decorum because, as I said, professionalism is very relative. So there it was associated that if you are a professional, then you do not give a high five to your colleague when you finish a particular assignment. If you have your arm around your colleague, just trying to comfort them, then it's like you people are chit-chatting, wasting your time. So, professionalism is always equal to you in front of your system, with a probably professional look that was
I
probably
would like
defined
to,
it.
I would like, Deepti,
So-
I would like to just put one point, because
Sure.
in industries, like you rightly said, the relative word is very important, because in academics, for example, professionalism has a different, there is a certain amount of discipline. We all came up through that.
No,
So,
Radhika, can I just
and
complete
in
this point?
advertising,
Yeah.
I would like just to
Sure.
give an
Yeah,
extreme example.
Yeah.
In an advertising industry, it's totally different, because if I don't emote, I don't get that creative
Absolutely.
flow.
But what I'm trying to say, Radhika, here is, though we have these stereotypes, okay, if I go to a particular institute, maybe, this industry is supposed to have this kind of a flair, maybe that's not very acceptable in, some other industry. But I'm just trying to say, at the end of the day, which industry you join becomes irrespective, because it's you who has joined the place. So what do you bring to that table, So
I think we need to analyze
every
I think
company
we
is
need
about
to look at the
people.
culture where we join.
I agree,
and
but
then
at the same time, I
sync
don't think that
ourselves.
you do not have to modify who you are.
Correct. You don't have to
Just
mold
be
into
who-
their
who's
entire
asking?
mold of things.
You don't
You
have
don't
to-
have to mask yourself entirely.
It's not about modifying ourselves. It's about understanding the culture of the organization.
You mold yourself to an extent that it doesn't change your entire personality or your
My
personal
question is,
instincts.
are we at loggerheads? My question is,
No,
they're
no, no,
in
no.
the same line.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to
Absolutely.
differ with you. But the point here
Even
is,
if you do that,
I'm just
I
adding.
appreciate it actually. But all I'm
No,
trying
my
to
idea
say
is not to
this-
differ with you.
Sure.
My idea is only to add another angle to it.
All
So
right.
let me make
Please,
my
please,
stand
please,
clear.
please, please go ahead.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just
my
to
idea.
put it in this way, emotional
Right.
and the culture that you put. I mean, from our creative industry, my guys come down with shorts and t-shirts, and they sit in any corner of the room and they work. And when they're working, they're really lying down, they're eating their pizzas, they're all over their bed, they're working at midnight. We don't care.
Right.
But at the same time, we put them in the same different set of putting them onto a professional attire where they're wearing formals and they're putting up a tie, and you make them sit in a cabin, they'll be collapsed. So, I mean, as you said, that clearly says
Yeah.
your emotions, your culture.
No, so
your
you're trying to
background.
say that the setting will change the emotions of an individual?
It does.
Absolutely. The ambience adds a lot to your emotions.
And that is,
Directly
yeah,
defines
and that
your
is exactly
personality.
where my point came, that a lot of onus lies on you also as an individual.
Exactly.
So when I was in that company, I just couldn't imagine that I'm going to be, this different person. So I continued being myself. But this is where I'd say what Radhika has added, you have to mellow down according to the culture. Obviously, I cannot be as loud because everybody is around. But at the same time, I'm not going to be another puppet sitting there because nobody else emotes. I don't emote. I am my own person. And I think with time, everybody also realized, and I'm not saying I did that great thing. I think everybody wanted to emote. It's just that they were not finding somebody to relate to. And once they had somebody like that, each of us was still working, contributing, but we were just more of ourselves in that place. So I'm just trying to say that as much as we'd like a company to do it for us, a boss to do it for us, I think
would rather do
we
it
need
for our own
absolutely,
selves.
absolutely, Vishwanath. I think
It's
we
one
need
of
to
the
do ourselves that favor
Challenges
first.
for every company to build
Right.
in a culture for their
Right.
employees, because
Absolutely.
a culture defines you. I mean, if I'm in an entertainment industry, my culture is very entertaining. I mean, even my walls would look entertaining.
So
My
that's
desktop would
actually
look
wonderful.
entertaining.
I agree with her, because she's wonderfully
Here,
put it.
because we are supposed to be cheerful.
That's supposed to be a macro thing.
Cheerful,
Yeah.
like course we are progressive.
Here, I would
That's
want
a
to
magic
dive
one.
this a bit, talking about emotions itself. We have spoken a lot about being cheerful, enjoying our success and all. What about
Right.
anger? This is a very predominant emotion everywhere. So how do we deal with anger? Is
Yeah.
it justified? Today something has to be done. Somehow the team has not done it. So obviously, being the boss, I am answerable somewhere. And I vent out my emotions. I'm angry that things are not done. So what is your take on that?
See, when
How do I... Yeah.
you are asked to do something, when you join a workplace, you are expected to do something, and that's there in your job card, that this is what is expected out of you, and it's quite obvious for your boss to react in a way if it is not done what is expected out of you. So I think there is a thin line difference that has to be brought out into picture. If you're not working and then there is a serious reason and your boss is not understanding that reason, then yes, understood. But when you're expected to do that work and you're supposed to do that work, and I don't think that is emotion coming out of the boss. The
No,
boss
what kind of an emotion are we talking about? Anger. What kind of an emotion are we talking about? There is this controlled aggression, or at times the boss really goes overboard and probably attacks your entire personal demeanor. This is probably not acceptable. How many of us would accept that?
That would not be acceptable.
Exactly. So as long as it is in the professional decorum, the four walls of the professional decorum, I guess I would probably accept it and.
Even if it is anger, anger management, I think you will have to reason it out reasonably.
Exactly.
Only then, you will actually have a personality out of you coming up and people understanding your, venting out of emotions. For what reason is this being done? So you reason it out, then obviously I think
See, usually
it is
what
taken
we
care.
in that kind of situations when we are in a lot of pressure from the client, from the deadlines are coming close, and not just that pressure. I mean, in the Indian scenarios, you can be having pressures from all different things, even from a power cut, where you have a deadline right there.
Exactly.
And these are the times when the emotions are on the high level. You cannot control them, and you're helpless more or less.
Things beyond your control.
And then you hear it from your client,
Substance.
you hear it from your boss, you hear it from your immediate colleagues, and everybody are frustrated and the motivation level is on the zero level. So these are when we play this dual role. What is this one person probably screaming out of the entire team and really doing that? Do you understand the crisis that we are in right now? And there is another person, that is the leaders that we call in a team, or team lead, or any of that person who's responsibly taking care of that team will be able to stand tall and say, yes, I'll be handling it, and trying to emotionally balance it.
So the higher
What
the
problem
position, yes, yes.
usually happens is, while there is a 2 level of it, you are cushioning the pressure. The anger is distributed. The moment that is lost, and the people who are the end receivers are the people who are primarily even doing the job, trust me, it is a disaster that you're living in. And anger management, let us not bullshit anybody out here, we are in a very bad stage at it. Each one of us emotionally, once we go back home, either a wife screams at you and you come back here, or you go back home to your kids who are really cranky at the same time. It is not a small thing for any of us to live in, and this is all we say. I mean, at the work, if the anger management is actually distributed among your colleagues, you're able to discuss it, openly criticize yourself, your boss, your team, your work, at the final time motivate all of us towards the same goal, we are actually doing something for ourselves.
So that is leading us to what makes an effective leader somewhere.
Exactly.
Right?
With more power comes more responsibility, kind of a
Absolutely.
statement. You've got to judge your own self as to in what position are you probably catering to your colleagues or in your company.
It's a
So
making
considering
of a
this entire,
personality.
the genre of emotion is quite ephemeral. So we probably got to understand that it's not going to last for too long. For instance, I've had a bad day driving down to my office. The traffic added to my woes. Maybe I will probably bring it down to my office floor. Maybe for the next 15 minutes. Post it, I should probably be very normal in probably molding myself to the entire obligations of my job culture.
Off it, Facebook is doing pretty good job.
Absolutely.
People are pretty happy posting up their emotions there, and then they're done.
You know what? There's also one
No
saying
sooner
that
find too many
don't
likes for it.
post it in your status. Say it direct to my face. There's also that status I read. I mean, that's interesting.
I mean,
We should
but still, the
understand.
emotions are already let out. So, I mean, you have this lot of, I mean, the Google offices,
Absolutely.
they have this emotion walls, wherein you can actually put up anything on that emotion, probably even scolding up your boss, and that's been accepted.
Absolutely.
And the best part about that culture is that they're being trained, or rather, they get accustomed to the culture of accepting it.
Lalita, I just recollect one of my old colleague talking about it. He's a gentleman. He was talking about not being happy with his boss. And then there was one point where they were allowed to go a little informal and then have some drinks and all those things. Over the drinks, I don't think he was really intoxicated so much, but he started it off, and then the boss was enjoying it because he had no other option. But at the end of the day, when the boss was giving it back in his own stride, because he was also so-called intoxicated.
Exactly.
So yeah, I would like to add an example about expressing the emotions. One of my friends, I don't know if that practice is still there in his company. They have a phone line. You have anything, you are not able to say, but it's good that you express it. Pick up the line. Nobody knows in the company who is listening to that. But you just pick it up, and whatever you have to say, you say. So somewhere you are light that I have expressed it. And maybe somewhere it is being noted also, and it will be addressed. But that expression of emotions part has been taken care of.
Exactly. And the productivity of the
Doesn't get
everything
Absolutely.
improves.
Yeah.
All the companies now have all the
Gymnasiums and the swimming pools and all there. So we are there to.
We are talking about real big corporates. You look at the SME level, you have a small room, we are all existing in the
Even they will probably give to the colleagues of writing down or penning down few lines what they think about how we probably shaping up for the last entire week, how did we do the last entire month, any such issues without even naming your names, probably pen it down in another few lines. I guess every bosses can also probably find this out
I think
or work it out.
Sometimes it really doesn't take a lot of money to get all these things out of somebody. All it needs is one sweet smile,
Initiative.
And then
probably a kind word. Sometimes it really goes a long way. Maybe it's a new colleague colleague of yours. It's somebody you really don't know. Maybe you've just met them up and down the work aisle. But you know, you see them in a bad mood. You see each other every day, and you kind of know what the person looks like on a day-to-day basis. A smile, a little hello, will really go a long way. Absolutely, you know.
I think I agree with you.
I really don't need huge HR strategies.
At this point, it is
sometimes.
about looking in ourselves, looking right deep within us, whether this is really required or not.
Right.
What is it that we have done that could have affected somebody?
Absolutely.
Or what is it somebody else could have done that has affected that person? It's
The solutions to real big problems lie in very simple.
very simple. It's just that
And in our own selves, in our own
Absolutely. It's
words.
just that we are so blinded by an entire race that we just overlook it or we take it for granted, and it's sometimes that, you know, sometimes in my
agree
case
about
also, you
taking
know,
it granted.
yeah, and maybe some people might have done it to me at times, or you know, I've seen it happen to other people. That,
I
you know,
perhaps-
this much, but the only point is that that moment of enlightenment didn't happen that day.
We are
So-
not talking about daily expressions or real daily.
Right.
There are certain things where maybe a very bad failure.
Absolutely.
So which is even a longer way to go about it. A failure because of a client withdrew a project in the last minute, or you have a colleague who has left you in midst of
Right,
without any
right.
kind of an incident.
Right.
These are worst. I mean, because they have a rippling effect. Because you
Right.
start
True.
looking at others in the same, emotion, or rather, because we're saying about emotion, your
Right.
impressions keep rippling on back to others. So this is what gets a lot more lasting effect on us personally, because it changes our personality for a long term. So when I had a personal experience where my client went on overboard about speaking ill, to an extent that he went on to my family and kids and all kind of things. It kind of affected me more, because as long as it was me, I was facing the
Yeah.
shit. It was okay. But the moment when it comes to your family and your kids and everything,
That's
I
affected.
do obviously
True.
get emotional about the entire thing. And it took me a very long time to get over it. But then you realize that the world is so small, you
Yeah.
always keep coming across those people more often than you want to, and more dramatically than you would like to. And then that's when, balancing the emotion turns out to be a bigger challenge.
So absolutely, I feel just with a lighter version of what I want to say. If you want to really balance your emotions at work, get married. First. I mean, you'll start doing the exercise right from your house, and then it goes off. I think
Exactly.
just kind of a lighter version of it.
I think children will be the best tutors to teach you how to balance your emotions.
Exactly.
Because you cannot really shout on your child at all the times. You will have to balance your child.
Finally, with time I realized that it was best to confront it at the end of it, because there was no way. It's gone by past, you cannot get back to your past any which ways. So there was no. If you are, you come to an extent that I don't want to see this person ever again in my life. That's a very clear statement, whether it's your employee or your boss or your own
Fortunately,
client,
we
everything.
will definitely bump into them sometime or other.
That's
And
it.
in a more dramatic way.
More dramatic. I cannot see that person, and the moment by mistake you come, your emotions start, boiling up for
From the
nowhere.
middle.
But the best part, what I realized, which I actually surprised me, it's that I went out, said a hello, and got back to an absolutely casual new person you meet, just a casual introduction kind of a thing. Said a very casual hello, and which took that person by surprise, and it kind of gave me such a lot of pleasure, because I felt I won the war there.
In the past, we did not translate your future.
Exactly, and it was an easier way to deal with it. And to be frank, today I have no emotions left with that person. It's done. I'm
Yeah, I
clear.
think
So
I
all you
very
have
much
to do is
agree on
confront
that,
it,
because one most important thing Deepthi was also talking about is carrying the baggage with us. And
Yeah,
if
exactly.
that is a very important point, because if I tend to take the baggage, irrespective of whether it's my personal life or professional life, I end up being very bad at my work or even in my own life. So I think at the end of the day, it's about how I look at how much to take and how much not to. And that, I think the whole gamut starts there.
To sum it up all, it was a very, very fruitful and a healthy discussion that all of us had, and it's perfectly okay for each one of us to emote, and we need to have a perfect balance as to how much to emote and how much not to. So it's very nice, and let's keep smiling and keep emoting. Thank you so much.